And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Standard 81 podcast. I am your host, Sincere, and we are going to talk about something tonight. We are going to be talking about how far is too far. But before we get into that particular topic, let's go ahead and take a 30-second break, and I'll be right back with you. And we are back, ladies and gents. We are back. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to figure out some new things here. Give me a sec. All right. I think we're good. I think we're good. Anyways, let's talk about this. How far is too far? Now, if you've been on my TikTok, which by the way, check out my TikTok. It's at the Standard 81 podcast over there on TikTok. I got tons of videos up there. I just did one today as well, talking to kind of coinciding with the things that I was going to talk about tonight. But if you've been checking out my TikTok, I got tons of things here. I got tons of things over there. And what I was saying in that particular TikTok is, if you have to ask certain questions, such as, is this too much, or am I saying to, then you know without a shadow of a doubt you have probably gone too far. I'm gonna just say that verbatim. If you have to sit there and contemplate whether or not the consequences of saying what you have to say, or doing what you're going to have to, doing what it is you're doing, is going to push a certain person in a certain direction, then yeah, you've probably gone too far. Now, I've also said this. Does this mean that we shouldn't push ourselves to new levels, that we shouldn't push ourselves to new heights, and that we shouldn't challenge ourselves to do better than we have before? Absolutely not. But I will say this: if something you're going to do is going to come with regrets or major consequences, then yeah, you could probably say you've gone too far. All right. So I put down a few topics here on my phone, and I want to kind of do them in succession. And here's what I have. When you have to think to yourself, if or but you've gone too far. If or but you have gone too far. Why? Because all those words have a context of consequence. If I say this, what is going to be the reactions? If I do this, what is going to be the reactions? I could do this, or I could do that. I could say this, or I could say that. There's that context in there of a conclusion, some type of reaction, or some kind of consequences. I could say this, but I could do this, but You get where I'm saying? Those three words, those three words right there. Just saying those three words alone can change the whole trajectory of what it is that you are doing. Can change the whole trajectory of what it is you have going on. And see, a lot of times people don't think about this because we live in a generation, which is something else I said on my TikTok. We live in a generation and in a culture where everybody wants to express themselves and be uninhibited. We don't tend to ask those questions up front, or if we do, we don't tend to think about the consequences of it. We want to be free and uninhibited and and make our own decisions and go our own way. But then when the consequences come, we oftentimes want to backpedal the things we've done and say, "Oh, that was not us not thinking right. Oh, it was young and dumb. Oh, it was at the time that I wasn't thinking right. Oh, I'm immature and this and this and this." When back in the day, we thought about this stuff. And especially amongst my culture, which is the black culture, we don't tend to want to think about too much of anything because we consider somehow thinking about things and really going over stuff in our head before we do things somehow controlling and manipulative. Instead of saying to ourselves, these are the very things that protect us. Yeah, you've gone too far if you have to sit there and think before or after what the consequence is going to be. If you have to use any one of those three words in order to figure out what it is that's going to happen if you do something or if you say something or if something is done, then yeah, you've probably gone too far. I shouldn't say this, but they don't say it. I shouldn't be doing this, but then don't do it. If I go here, I could possibly, then don't go. If I do this right now, then don't do it. This should be common sense. This shouldn't be something that we have to contemplate and think long about because it should be common sense. But I am finding out more and more in this generation that common sense is very uncommon. And the sad thing about this whole thing is we are more educated, we have access to more um knowledge and more wisdom and more things than we have ever had in any course of history, but yet by far we are some of the most foolish and ignorant people that I have ever come across. And the more the older generation dies off, and I'm not here to say the older generation done it perfect, because there's a lot of the older generation that is a part of the problem of why we have what we have today, because they taught some bad stuff. But as the older generation dies off that at least had the knowledge of this stuff dies off, the more and more we begin to see society, our community, and relationships denigrate. We begin to see it completely fall apart. And now things that should have been simple are hard. It should be simple to get into a relationship and find out about a person's characteristics and think long term about what is going to happen in your future. But, oh, did you just see that? But because we want to be free and we said we are better than those who have come before us, so we need to deconstruct this all, we don't. Now everything is a process. Let's move on to topic 2. People are finding out. And I touched on this a little bit in the the first topic, but now we're moving on. People are beginning to find out, yeah, we went too far. And now we and I'm specifically talking about society right now. We've gone too far in our pressing in our trying to be accepted and accepting of so many things. We have now allowed our society to go downhill. We have now allowed our culture to go downhill. Let me tell you something. I was just recently watching the Candace Owens show, right? And there's a little boy that was on there called RT, and I've never heard any of his music. But here's the thing: he was talking like all the rest of these rappers out there, which didn't surprise me because there are little kids that are 5 and 6 years old that cuss like sailors, and it's because of their parents. So I'm calling you parents out. But then the video clip she showed was of him at a strip club while a girl was shaking her butt. And then the very next clip was him being twerked on by some mature woman. This is absolutely crazy. Now she said a lot of people got on them in the comments, but the fact that it's even happening is crazy. We have gone too far. When we as a church people sit there and say acceptance is about more than just saying, hey, look, you can come to our building and you can interact with us, but if you live a different lifestyle contrary to the one that we are in, we need to accept you anyways. That's going too far. When we are allowing other communities and other people and immigrants and everybody to come in and invade and tell us the things that we should and should be doing, we should and should not be doing, that is going too far. And now we are finding out. Now we're in an uproar. Now we got something to say about it. But here's the bad thing. It's almost too late. Because once you start to infuse something into society, it takes a lot longer to get it out than it does to bring it in. Old habits die hard. So now you want to implement something brand. So you said you wanted to try something brand new. And then when the brand new wasn't working, you've been doing it for so long and so long that people have got accustomed to it. And now they're even offended about these things. And you want to reconcile and go back to what was before. Now they're saying that ain't right. You're bigots. You're zealots. You're this the phobe and that the phobe and boo 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 and wooty wooty woo. Yeah, people are finding out. People are finding out real quick what it means to go too far. Feminism has gone too far. Let me and I don't want to jump on the ladies here just for a quick second because I'm not essentially a man-centric podcast. I'm gonna talk about everything, but I'm gonna jump on the ladies. Feminism has told y'all a bunch of lies and sold y'all a bunch of propaganda, and now you are finding out. And it's not just passport bros. It's not red pill content. It's not men going their own ways. It's single parent homes that are raising men, that are raising young men to be the very same thing that these women despise. Make it make sense. Now you're finding out. Where are the good men at? Well, the good men are not in the homes. You're divorcing because I have changed during the course of my life, and I'm ready to explore new horizons. And since you're not at that level anymore, I've got to let this relationship go. I've got to let this marriage go, only to get out here on the open market and find out it's a lot harder than you thought. And you still wishing upon lucky stars, praying on rabbit's foot, and hoping that God one day drops something in your lap. I'm here to let you know, sweetheart, it probably ain't going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. And I know I sound a lot more passionate about this than I normally do, but this is a topic that I told you was going to be good in the first place because I see it. I see how far away from things we've gotten, and we've messed around and found out. Yeah, we went too far. Fellas, we've gone too far, man. I'm gonna jump on the fellas here real quick. We sit there and we tell the ladies that they need to learn how to be conservative women, women who are modest, women who are controlled, women who know how to handle themselves like ladies, but yet and still we're out here acting like whoremongers, pimps, and everything that is detestable, and we expect them to respect us and follow our lead. What in the hell are they following? As a matter of fact, let me say this. They're following us straight to hell. Literally and subliminally. Because our mindsets are way off. And people are beginning to find out that the things that we thought we had so much control of and so much power of is not working. It's not working. And we're sitting there asking ourselves now, what is it that we need to do in order to be better? What is it that we need to do in order to bring ourselves back? The conclusion is very simple, but I'm not going to get to that yet because I still got yet another point, which is the consequences are. The consequences are right in front of us. We're seeing the conclusions. We're seeing that our little government is lying to us. We are seeing a decline in families. We're seeing a rise in selfishness. We're seeing a rise in divorce rate. We're seeing our women being stripped down to nothing but mere sexual objects and being said it's called empowerment, being told that being more masculine and more like men is the thing that they should be. And we're being told that little boys should be acting more like little girls. And if they feel like a little girl, then maybe they should be turned into a little girl. This is absolutely nuts. And let me say this. Let me say this. Live and let live. Okay? I'm not here to try to convince you of something that you don't want to be convinced of. But to me, the signs are obvious. Let's look at what's happening. People don't even respect people anymore. They barely respect authority. And I'm not talking about police, I'm talking about any authority. You can't tell me what to do because of my rights. And what rights do you have? Well, the Constitution, some of us don't even know what the Constitution looks like. We don't even know what the Constitution says. We know the ones that we hear on television. We know the ones that we hear on the radio. But if there is something that opposes that particular constitution, we don't know nothing about that. Our standards and our lifestyle have gone up to these luxury lifestyles, and we're trying to keep up with everybody. But yet and still, the amount of poverty has gone up, inflation has gone up, everything has gone up. We're barely living, but we still want to live these lifestyles. We keep on saying we want marriages, but people are not even lasting 2 years anymore. At one time, it was 5 at least. People are getting married and not even surviving 2 years. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's the men's fault or it's the women's fault. I think it's all of our faults, me included. Because in order for me to sit here and scream and shout at y'all, I've got to take some accountability for the fact that I haven't done my job and showing and stepping up and saying no against some of this stuff. As a Christian, I shouldn't be collaborating with some of this stuff. I shouldn't be clinging on to some of this stuff. Yes, can I listen to the conversation and hear their position? Absolutely. But my lifestyle should be saying that of Christ all the time, more so than it is of the world. And I am learning that. But yeah, we've gone too far. The consequences are apparent. Our children are bad. Our homes are misguided. There are no more families. Our fathers are television and media. Our women are going astray. We are more concerned about education and materialism than we are about a person's character. Everything that we have fought for, and right now I'm in particularly talking to Black people, everything we have fought for has basically been torn down or regulated to a skin color. And this is sad. Very, very sad to think that Dr. King, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, all the great historians of the civil rights movement and the freeing of the slaves did all this so that we could act like this, so that we could be like this, is absolutely mortifying. People as a whole are just bad. We keep on saying what we don't need and what we do need and what it is we willing to accept and not accept, but we're not doing, if you really dig into it, we're not doing any better. We're doing worse. California has literally turned into a state for homeless and druggies. New York has literally turned, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, and some of the others have literally turned into states for immigrants and borders. The rest of us are infighting. Does this look normal? Does this look like a place we want to leave to our children's children? Are these the kind of morals and standards that we want to set and leave for the people who come after us? I would say no. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's my Christian values that have got me triggered like this, but it seems as though we have lost the essence of who we are and who we're supposed to be. Because comprehensively, I don't see why it is we do some of the stuff we do. Why it is we celebrate some of the things we celebrate. They say hindsight is 50-50. But should we have to always rely on our hindsight in order for us to see what it is that's coming if we don't shape up? Should we have to rely on hindsight in order for us to see that things that we thought were going to work are not working? Or should we look into what it is that we have now and the historical data and the historical data that we can acquire and access and say, what is it that made them thrive and what is it that caused them to fall? Because at this point we've gone too far and we're suffering the consequences for it, and the consequences are everything is just going downhill. But I'm happy to report that some of us are getting it. Some of our church leaders are getting it. I'm proud to say our church, my church, RCC, is getting it. My pastor, Pastor George, he's getting it. I'm glad to say my community gets it. We're not perfect, but we're getting it. I'm glad to say that there are people out there like Candace Owens who get it. I'm glad to see that even Joe Button and Joe Rogan are starting to wake up to some of this stuff. That they're beginning to get it. They're beginning to wake up and acknowledge the fact that all this stuff that we've been trying is not leading us to anything better. It's actually leading us down a road to corruption and depravity. It's leading us down a highway in which, if we continue, there's not going to be a way off of. Because I'm here to tell you this, there is a way off, but you may not like the way. There's one way, and that way is Jesus. And you knew I was going to go there. And I know what y'all gonna say. Sincere, you always say this. You say Jesus is the way, Jesus is the way. That's a religion. That's a religion. That's a religion. I'm here to tell you, it's more than a religion, it's a relationship. And when you get into it and you really start digging into it, you'll find out how much it really affects your life. You'll find out how much your life has been shaped in a misguided direction. Does this mean that everything else that has been implemented in the world today is irrelevant and void? No. I've done therapy myself. Does this mean self-examination is not good? No, but it's hard to examine yourself when there's nobody telling you what's wrong, when there's no direction, when there's no structure, when there's no discipline. They say experience is the best teacher. I am always here to say experience is a teacher. It can be a good teacher at times, but why should we have to always learn through experience the things not to do and the things to do? Yes, there's a certain amount of risk that we must take in order to progress. Yes, there is a certain amount of things that we need to do in order to move forward. But the things that we have done and that we have tried have not gotten us any further. A matter of fact, they keep on pushing us back. And you know what's advancing? Agendas and technology. And you know what's going to continue to progress? Agendas and technology. And eventually, what's going to happen when agenda and technology is at its pinnacle, it's going to brainwash us. It's going to corrupt all of us, and it's going to begin to make us have to make decisions about our life, about our lifestyle, and what it is we truly believe. This is why I said Jesus is the answer. Because at least when you're following Christ, you have a choice. At least when you're following Christ, you have somebody that can understand what you've gone through. The Bible says this: Jesus, and I'm translating this, Jesus experienced everything a man had to experience, could experience, and yet he was without sin. Meaning he went through every single hardship. He went through every single thought. He went through every single drama. He went through it all and yet came out on top. And we have a chance, a glorious opportunity to glean from his knowledge. All we have to do is literally pick up one of these. Let me show you. All we got to do is pick up one of these. I've got several. All we got to do is pick it up. And here's the funny thing about it. Once we pick it up, all we got to do is open it up and begin to read it. What does it matter? You don't understand it. In the beginning, you're not going to understand it. I didn't. I'm not going to sit there and tell you that once you accept Christ in your life, everything is going to be perfect and everything is going to be glorious and you're never going to have any problems, any troubles, or any of it. No, I'm not. But I am going to tell you, once you begin to pick it up and once you begin to read it on a consistent basis, things are going to happen. Maybe not out here, but in here. And in here, it will begin to happen. And then the things, the very things that you were worried about become numb and void. The very things that you were hoping to happen begin to happen. How do I know? Because it's happening for me. I'm here to tell you it's happening for me now. I can feel the tide changing in my life. At one point, I was in a wilderness and I was directionless. I'm not going to sit there and lie to y'all, even though I was doing everything that this world told me to do. Go out, get a job, get some education, boo. None of that was working. You want to know why? Because God had a plan for me. God has a purpose for me. And he wasn't going to let me sit around and do all this stuff and have to find out through earthly experience. Wait until I get dirt old which, by the way, I'm already old now, and then hope that things change. He has kept me away from so many things. And I don't know where I'd be right now without him. But to the outside world, it could seem like I'm a total failure because I don't have the things that most people accumulate and correlate with success. But I'm going to tell you this, if I was to die tonight, I'm pretty sure I'm going to heaven. I asked you the same question. If you were to die tonight, where do you think you're going? I hear people all the time so concerned about legacy. What is the legacy we really leaving behind? Generational wealth. Well, you do know wealth eventually withers and dies. You do know that they're trying to change the currency as it stands to something electronic. So we worried about what? What are we worried about? I think we've gone too far. A matter of fact, I don't even think I know we've gone too far. And it's time for us to make a shift. It's time for us to make a change, man. It's time for us to make a difference. And everybody's going to look different. Everybody's going to look different. Some of us are going to be podcasters. Some of us are going to be ministers. Some of us are going to be business people. Some of us are going to be celebrities. Some of us are going to be actors. Some of us are going to be doctors, lawyers, whatever the case may be. But it's time for us to do something different. We've gone too far. How do we know? The evidence is there. And every time we've asked ourselves the question, we've had to use those three words, which I said in the beginning: if, or but. And we've seen the consequences of it. We've seen what happened. We've sit here and literally watched as each and every but, if, or has turned out horrible. Some things, they've been all right. The advancements in technology and the way things are more convenient, yeah, cool. That's great. The way that we can have things be such easier processes in the way that we do schooling and how we work things at the home, and yeah, that's cool. And I'm grateful. But I think we've allowed ourselves to move too far in one direction. And I think the question is now, how do we progress from here? Because when you've gone too far, the only other question left is, how do we fix it? And how do we make it better? And that's all I'm going to say. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up button. I greatly appreciate it. And if you are watching this after the broadcast is live, go ahead and type second watch in there for me and leave that comment there. Let me know whether or not you like it. Let me know whether or not what I'm saying is on point. I greatly appreciate that. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well, because I'm going to be dropping content like this, man. I'm going to be dropping more passionate content. Of course, I will continue to drop my relationship content because life is a big relationship, either with the father or with yourself, which is eventually going to lead you down a whole rabbit hole. But that is another time in another subject that I will get into. Trust me on that. And please, next time I go live, I will always drop the chat. I will always drop how to interact there in the comments for you so that you can see. And if you want to join the stream, you can come in and chat with me and give me your agreements or disagreements, and we can have a conversation about it. And we can continue to go from there. Anyways, thank you for joining me. Check out my Instagram at Sincere the Artist. Also check out my TikTok at the Standard 81 Podcast. And I'll see you guys on the next one. I love you all. Peace.